You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Miami date is good. The Notre Dame date, not very good. We knew that Syracuse football was going to play on the road against Miami, and we knew they were also going on the road to play Notre Dame. We just didn't know when until last night. Let's start with the good, which is when the Miami game is occurring. This is awesome for the fans, and this is awesome for the team. For the fans, if you're planning on making the trip to South Florida, which is my neck of the woods, guess what? Early November, it's on November 8th at Miami. I would say that's a pretty good date because you can go to the game and not be sweating bullets. That's the good news. If it was in September, trust me, I have gone to Miami games, not the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets in September. It's not fun. It's about 100 degrees in that stadium. Not fun at all. You're sweating. But they're playing on November 8th, which is good. But this is also really, really good for the team. And let me explain Hard Rock Stadium where the Miami Hurricanes play. Tell you why. So the way they built their stadium is by design. With the sun. See, the architects of the stadium, they know the weather and they know the sun patterns. This is where we get all scientific here on the Locked On Syracuse podcast. During game time, so let's say 12, 1, 2 o'clock, everything like that, the sun is directly towards the away team's sideline, whereas where the Hurricanes play and where the Dolphins play, they're in the shade during the course of the game. If this game were in September, I am not joking. If Syracuse were playing in September in Miami, it could be 100 degrees on their sideline. That is really, really hot. So heat could really become a factor in that game. And the Miami side is in the shade. They're all cool. They're all fine. But because it's in November, while the sun is not changing the pattern, it's going to be a little bit cooler. It's not going to be, in all likelihood, 90 plus degrees outside. Chances are early November, you're looking at 70s, maybe low 80s. So overall, very, very good date getting the Miami game on November 8th. However, you take the good with the bad. The Notre Dame game is on November 22nd. Oh, that's going to be cold. That is going to be cold, and it's possible it snows on November 22nd. If Syracuse, let's say Jeff Nixon does return to Syracuse, which I would guess will happen, but we'll see over the course of the offseason if he decides to move on. But let's say he stays and Syracuse, again, runs a pass-happy offense. They're going to go on the road at Notre Dame, second last game of the season, November 22nd. It's going to be freezing cold and potentially snowing. That doesn't bode well for a pass-happy offense in Notre Dame. I'm just saying that. Meanwhile, Notre Dame is a team that, A, they're used to the elements, and B, they typically run a run-first offense anyway. That's their bread and butter. They want to dominate the line of scrimmage, and they want to play smash-mouth, old-school football. That's literally what got them to the national championship game this past season. So take the good with the bad. Syracuse gets Miami at a favorable date, November 8th, but they get Notre Dame later in the season, which means the weather is certainly going to be a factor in that one. Finally, my final takeaway from Syracuse football's 2025 schedule, I really, really like the bye week structure that they were given. Syracuse will begin the season playing 6 consecutive games before they have their first bye week. Then after their bye week, they will play 4 more games before their next bye week, and then they will play 2 games to close out the season. So the exact bye week dates are October 11th and November 15th. And this is a much better structure than what Syracuse had last season and what they dealt with. It's not an excuse in this. I'm not blaming the bye week schedule last year for why they lost after bye weeks, because they lost both their games last year after the bye. However, it was not favorable at all. Last year in 2024, they got a bye week after the first 2 games of the season. And then they played another 4 games before their next bye week. So they played only 6 games and they had 2 bye weeks in those first 6 games. So they played the rest of the season with no bye weeks. I didn't love that bye week structure at all. Now, it didn't really hurt them in the end in terms of they won games down the stretch. Didn't really seem to affect them. But still, all things being equal, you would rather have it more balanced like it is this season. You don't want it for the first 2 weeks. Why do you need a bye week after 2 weeks in the season? It makes absolutely no sense to me. Why are bye weeks in there to begin with? To rest up, to get healthy, to recover from whatever ailments are going on around the team and the players. 2 weeks into the season, that's when the team is typically as healthy as it's ever going to get. So that's not when you need the bye. You need the bye as you get into the meat of the season, which is what Syracuse is going through right now. They're going to get one after the first 6 games to rest up and recover. Then they're going to play 4 more, get another bye week, and then they have 2 more games to close out the season, and they're going to be fully rested for that because of the bye week. So I like it. It's also going to, that second bye week, by the way, is coming right before the Notre Dame game. So that'll give them extra time to prepare for Notre Dame. Hopefully that helps them out. And then they got Boston College at home to close out the regular season.